Going to the mailbox can often be mentally and emotionally exhausting. There are bills and letters and junk mail to sort through. We are inundated with charitable requests that come from all over the world. Now, many of the causes are just and worthy of our consideration, but choosing? Now that can sometimes be challenging. But how do we know if our prayerful choices line up with God's purposes? Are we truly fulfilling the Great Commission? Many charities do great deeds by providing food and clothing and shelter for the less fortunate. But aren't we, as Christians, responsible to not just care for their worldly needs, but also to nurture their hearts and prepare them for eternity? In other words, aren't we the light? Aren't we the ones that are to bring the lost to salvation? Shouldn't we intentionally be urgent and passionate to concentrate our giving to ministries that tend to the spirit as well as the body? Hello, my name is Mary Ann Bishop, and I'm the coordinator for Circle 555 Grand Strand. Our giving circle is named Circle 555 because each member commits to giving $555 annually. And each member's contribution is then combined so that collectively, our giving capacity increases exponentially. Circle 555 last year raised more than $58,000 and was able to award grants to 9 outstanding Christ-centered nonprofit missions in both Horry and Georgetown counties. These selective ministries must meet a criteria. They must be family, women, or children focused, and they must have some aspect of sharing the gospel in their mission statement or their vision. In our world today, many Christian-based ministries are being denied grants. It is our mission to find these ministries and support them in their kingdom work throughout our communities. Once you become a giving member, there are many ways that you can contribute and become involved. You can become involved through various committees that move the circle forward, or you can just enjoy a simple membership that includes 4 meetings in the course of a year. But this is by no means a requirement. We all have many obligations, so the level of our involvement is your choice. We believe Circle 555 is a unique giving opportunity, not only to give to worthy ministries, but to grow personally in our own understanding of biblical stewardship. What makes Circle 555 different from most women's circles, women's giving circles, or ministries is that we have a grants committee. Our grants committee meets over the course of a couple of months where they actually vet the ministries that we identify. They interview them. They go on site visits to these ministry locations, and they bring back the ministry leaders to education meetings where they are interviewed in front of the circle members. The circle members then can discuss that ministry. They can ask questions of that ministry, and then they prayerfully decide just how they will vote for those ministries. So this is a beautiful part of the way our Circle 555 works, and today I have the great privilege of introducing you to one of our ministries that we helped this past year through a grant request that was given to the Garden City Chapel. Ricky Bass is with me today. He's the executive director of the Garden City Chapel, and the chapel has an initiative under the umbrella of their ministry that deals with orphans. So I'm going to ask Ricky to share a little bit about the vision of this part of your ministry and just how it got started and a little bit about it, if you would.
Thank you, Mary Ann. It's my pleasure to be here, and I love talking about the Children's Home Ministry, so it's a privilege. The Children's Home Ministry actually started in 1962. The chapel itself was in 1952, and it was made up of just families that came to worship together from different denominations. But 10 years later, someone asked the question, where do children's homes stay when they come to the beach? And the answer that they found is they could not afford to come to the beach. So this group of people pooled their money together, purchased a lot that was behind the chapel, and they built a very simple dorm that had two bedrooms filled with bunk beds and a kitchen and a dining room. And they began inviting children's homes to come use it. So that was really the initial vision. Now, where it went from there is churches heard about this dorm and they wanted to use it. So they offered to pay money to bring their youth there. And that birthed the idea of a retreat center. So today we have 6 acres, 11 dorms. We can hold 600 people at one time, and that changes twice a week during the summer. So it's quite busy. But the chapel never abandoned the children's home ministry. So it's a vital part of the ministry even today.
Tell us a little bit about how many orphans participate in this program and where they come from.
So this summer, we will have 16 children's homes that will come, and they will bring about 500 kids with them. And we roll out the red carpet, we like to say. We give them a list of activities that families would normally do when they would be here on vacation. Anything from the medieval times to the water park, to the aquarium, to putt-putt, and on and on. And these children's homes get to choose as many or as few of these activities as they want to do. And of course, their lodging and the activities are free of charge. They don't pay anything to do that.
Well, in Circle 555, Ricky, we're centered on ministries being gospel-centered and giving the gospel. So could you tell us a little bit about how you do that at Garden City Chapel? How do you spread the gospel through this ministry?
Yeah, that's a huge part of it, and that's something that we want to do with each children's home. So what we do is in the midst of their week, we get together, our staff and the children's home, for a night of fellowship. And that fellowship includes getting together for some icebreaker games. Often it includes playing kickball or volleyball, or we have a gaga pit that we get in there and play with them. And we have a pool party afterwards as well. But before all that takes place is our staff gets together for a time of worship music and for either a testimony or devotion. And of course, we present the gospel. And then we invite the kids to come and talk to our staff at the end of those sessions, and often that does take place.
Wow, that's beautiful. Another question I have is there a special memory or a story that has happened that you're aware of that you'd be willing to share with us?
Absolutely. Hard to narrow down one, but I do have one, and it took place last year. I think God ordained our summer staffer, Caleb, to speak to this one particular children's home, and he gave his testimony. And a part of that testimony in Caleb's life is his dad was arrested and went to jail when he was 11 for about 5 years. So a very big part of his youth and growing up, he didn't have his dad, where there were 3 boys that were sitting there with this children's home and heard Caleb's story. And when it was over, they surrounded him, and you could just see them talking and no telling what all they were saying, but you could see that there was a common bond, and they knew right away that Caleb, who they now looked up to, had a similar story as them, and they weren't in the boat alone. So Caleb circled them up and was praying for each of them before their little session was over.
Beautiful. I'd love to hear more. What kind of impact do you see a grant from Circle 555 providing for a ministry like this, Ricky?
Well, it's huge. We're grateful for Circle 555 and for the grant that they gave us this past year, which enables us to continue inviting children's homes and to ministering to them. But one of the children's homes leader, Lily, sent me this text, and she said, I want you to know that these children are the lowest of the low. They're made fun of and bullied for just being different and being part of a group home. What the group home kids will be experiencing this week will be life-changing. They will return home with much more joy in their hearts. She says, "Thank you for making this possible, and my heart is full of thanksgiving." Well, we're grateful for Circle 555 because there's thanksgiving in our hearts and joy in our hearts because of your generosity in awarding us this money, where we can keep ministering to underprivileged children and keep our Children's Home ministry going.
Praise the Lord for the great, great work you're doing. Thank you so much for sharing with us and our circle what you're doing. Thanks,
Thank you,
Ricky.
Mary Ann, for this time.
Won't you join us by becoming a member of Circle 555 Grand Strand? Your eyes will be opened, your heart will be touched to realize just how far your individual contribution can reach. Your life will be richly blessed through the friendships that you will make with like-minded women that you have yet to meet. Peter was told 3 times by Christ to feed my sheep. You and I are called to do likewise. And our giving through Circle 555 allows us to fulfill Jesus' command by not just feeding and clothing and sheltering the needy, but by providing spiritual food, hope, and blessing through partnerships with ministries throughout our community who are spreading the love of Jesus as they reach people. Won't you prayerfully consider joining us in this wonderful Christ-centered giving ministry for women and young girls? I can assure you, you will be very glad you did.